Now at Tom Gibbs Chevrolet, so you can focus on enjoying the new year without any worries. Call 386-206-8093. That's 386-206-8093. Partly to mostly sunny, still cool, low 50s this afternoon. Hard freeze tonight, low 30s under clear skies. Sunny and cold, upper 50s tomorrow. Clear tomorrow night, sunny on Sunday, low 60s. I'm Precision Weather Meteorologist Russ Murley on WNZF.
The following programs contain information and personal opinions expressed by the participants and are not necessarily those of Flagler Broadcasting staff, management, or advertisers.
This is Pierre Tristam, editor of Flagler Live, with your weekly reality check. On October 3rd, 1995, after a trial that had lasted as long as a presidential election campaign, a jury found O.J. Simpson not guilty of murdering Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. Blacks cheered. Whites were horrified and angered that blacks cheered. The reaction to the verdict, not the verdict itself, showed a nation more profoundly divided along racial and ideological lines than anyone wanted to admit. There was no reckoning with those divisions. Fueled by the same media that had exploited the 13-month trial for ratings, the nation focused on sensationalism, conspiracy theories, and mutual hatred. Blacks didn't think they owed whites an explanation for what they took as a rare victory from a justice system stacked against them. Whites didn't attempt to understand why blacks celebrated, including blacks who knew O.J. was guilty. For many whites, the scholar Henry Louis Gates Jr. wrote at the time, a sincere belief in Simpson's innocence looked less like the culture of protest than like the culture of psychosis. The culture of psychosis is back, or rather, it never left us. It is the culture that defines us. It's not even about color. It's about tribes driven more by ideological psychosis than race or religion or even party affiliation. The tribes of 1995 have switched places. Donald Trump hasn't killed anybody, at least not directly, but he's the convicted felon 34 times over, the twice impeached president who was found liable for sexual assault and would have been found liable for leading the insurrection and terrorism of January 6 had the case proceeded. Unlike O.J., he was never acquitted, but he was re-elected. His supporters haven't stopped cheering and dancing on rooftops, real and metaphorical, as his opponents have looked on, horrified if no longer disbelieving. We are catching on that the culture of psychosis we saw on full display in 1995 is really American culture. Evidence, facts, truth, justice, and history are irrelevant. Tribalism alone matters, paired in Trump's case with a power defined by divine right and a machinery of fabrications to fuel the myth, like the one about God intervening to save the man so he could save America. In a country half made up of enemies, 4 years won't be enough. The 22nd Amendment, limiting presidents to 2 terms, won't even have to be repealed now that Trump is repealing whole chunks of the Constitution by executive order so he can impose what is turning into a blend between a reign of terror and martial law, at least for that half of America that makes up its internal enemies. Barely 2 weeks after the Simpson verdict in 1995, the Nation of Islam minister Louis Farrakhan led his so-called million-man march on Washington. They descended on Washington in droves. Farrakhan seethed in triumph, taunting and insulting the establishment that had snubbed him for so long. He had made this happen. He smashed everyone's noses in it. He let loose, his bigotry vindicated, his self-promotion unbound, his children at his side a small army of nepotists, his brand exulting over the city. The difference is that Farrakhan could only muster that million, while Trump, a white Farrakhan, mustered the 312 necessary to regain power. Farrakhan was a buffoon, so is Trump, but one of those buffoons is now dead and forgotten, and the other is the most powerful psychotic in the world. This is Pierre Tristam, editor of Flagler Live, your 24-hour online news source. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Pierre. We like everybody's opinions on Free for All Friday. Whether we agree or not, we also like to hear what people are saying. Pierre, very smart guy, very intelligent, and so it's kind of cool to have opposite views of somebody that I respect, because I would not want to get into a one-on-one debate with Pierre about the Middle East. Brian, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you, and always, and good to have you mostly last week. You covered for me while I was down in Boca Raton having some fun little getaway with my wife, and much needed, so it was good to...
Very good.
Very good show. I listened to the podcast, and you did great with Mayor Norris and Berryhill, and we got a lot of news stories out of it that are running this week. So.
Great. Yeah, they were great guests, so I'm glad you got to get away.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, also in the studio, we do have our Sergeant of Cyber Crimes for the Flagler County Sheriff's Department, Augie Rodriguez. Morning, Augie.
Good morning, sir.
Good to have you here. We're going to talk about AI today. You know, it's all you hear about. I'm almost tired of hearing about AI. By the way, I Googled AI, right, and just Googled it. And the first thing that came up was it's a three-toed sloth. And it says an animal that has an aversion to work and laziness. So, and then you go further. Oh, and the technical. So I didn't know there was a sloth that's called a sloth or something. So there's your education for the day.
Aversion to work. And
Yeah.
Is that what we use AI for as well?
Isn't that kind of funny though? That
This email is pretty
Yes.
long. Yeah, I'll do the summarize this email function.
I'm a sloth. Yeah.
I rarely get long emails, so like I've been tempted to look at that. I'm like, well, the email is only about 2 sentences. I guess I'll read the whole thing.
Don't you? I mean, I get irritated with long emails. I'm like, oh my God, right? How about you? Sergeant Augie, Sergeant Augie Rodriguez. And so, yeah, you're just part of the gang here this morning. So,
Yeah.
but when I read a real long one, I'm like, okay, if in journalism, isn't the pyramid thing where the first paragraph tells you basically what the whole thing's about, and then you break it down into more paragraphs as you go on, right?
Yep.
So if you just read the first paragraph, you pretty well get it.
Not in the stories that I write. You got to read the whole thing. You got to keep on going. Be patient.
That's right.
No, but
read all of Brian's. Yeah. Anyway, so artificial intelligence is the topic of the day. It's affecting our lives, and it kind of really came to the forefront with Trump with his Stargate announcement and all these high-tech geniuses talking about $500 billion initial investment into it. We had all the big wigs from Advent Health in town this week and got to have dinner with Dr. Gregory and Wally DeCino and all those people. We were talking about AI, and it's not even on the news, about how they're already using AI. So it's kind of like, okay, well, what is it? What does it mean to us? So we've asked Sergeant Rodriguez to come in and talk about cyber crimes and artificial intelligence, because while doctors are using it and medical people are using it for good reasons, and I would think the Sheriff's Department, so we're going to find out about that. Are you using AI right now with the Flagler County Sheriff's Department?
To a limited extent. We do have certain software programs that assist us in what we do. So some of the features that we're currently implementing is we do have some cameras that view like some public parks and things like that. And artificial intelligence is able to help us identify the difference between like a Ford Explorer or a Nissan Altima. So through learning, the system can actually help us identify a white Ford Explorer as opposed to a red Nissan Altima, and then it could save us tons of time sifting through camera footage to identify a potential suspect in an offense. But very, very early stages, but it does assist law enforcement with being more efficient in investigations, and that's where we're at right now. Obviously, every day we're learning about and adopting new technology as we go forward. But right now we're in the very early stages of adopting AI.
And so with that, then you don't have to have a person sitting there, drinking coffee all night looking at cameras.
Correct. So what it is it's a force multiplier. So certain features that we have allow us to kind of just streamline an investigation or a process that we're trying to accomplish. And it will save us time and potentially gather leads for us much quicker than we would have without it. So it could basically, provide a team of detectives or analysts just by using artificial intelligence to view public areas that we're viewing.
Brian?
Last week we had Chief Deputy Joe Barilli on, and
Yes, sir.
I heard him say that even before that he is really big in the technology and he's really a proponent of it. I'm just trying to think, like, what do you think the technology is going to be like in law enforcement in, say, 10 years?
That's a great question. I mean, obviously, the protection of the public's privacy is got to be the foremost concern. But using these tools,
How do you do that and have the first priority also be to catch the bad guys? I mean, it seems like that is a fine line where we're going to
absolutely
always have to tread.
That's a delicate line that we tread even today or 10 years ago. I mean, applications of warrants or securing subpoenas through a judge or a state attorney are paramount to our criminal investigation. So we're always concerned about people's privacy. But most of the things that we have now, most of the camera features that we have now are viewing publicly viewable spaces, public parks, things like that, sidewalks, parking lots. So if a deputy sheriff can stand there and view these things himself, a camera can also do that, and it could assist us in identifying certain things that could help us get a lead.
we're going to talk more about that on the second half of the program, and that's kind of fascinating. Like when we're going to talk about what can we do to defend ourselves, or how are we being attacked, and how do you, as the Sheriff's Department, keep us safe from cyber and all those kind of things. It just seems to be getting more sophisticated. But right now, we're going to go to our good friend out in California, Dr. Steve Bickle. Studio audience is going nuts because you haven't been on for a while. Dr. Bickle, good morning.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
Oh,
You know, we have these videos now. We have these cameras, so people can tell that that's just a button.
so now we're going to have to...
People thought that this was a crowd full of people, and now that we're letting the...
Well, now we have to get real people in.
Yeah,
Well, maybe
we
we
probably
can get
should.
an AI audience.
I can
There you
clap
go.
if you want. That's whatever you need.
It's an audience multiplier.
Anyway, Dr. Bickle, good morning. Hey, we talked about... that's why I wanted to have you on, because this whole Stargate thing and making pretty incredible claims that with AI now in medicine, that I just read a study. It was that a study wasn't a comprehensive study, but it was a pretty good study. It was in the New York Times. That a study found that ChatGPT outdid human physicians when assessing medical case histories, even when the doctors were using a chatbot. So it's, I'm like, well, where are we going here? Where are we going to be eliminating? Are we not ever going to see our doctors anymore? I mean, already you can get a colorectal test by putting it in the mail, and they send it back and tell you where you're doing. And Dr. Bickle, of course, you've been around a long time, and you are our medical director here in Flagler County. So my question to you is AI a good thing or a bad thing for us, the patients, the consumers of medical services? So start with that.
Well, it's so early, it's kind of hard to tell or to really determine what the impact's going to be. Right now, the impact's pretty minimal. There are a few things that are being, marketed and touted and stuff, and there are a lot of studies that are starting. I think there's huge potential, but I think in some areas that potential is going to be realized, in other areas it's not. And we can talk about some of those specifics. In terms of diagnosis, the way these kind of studies are done is kind of artificial. A lot of what happens when you're dealing with a patient is you're filtering and triaging. And diagnosis is, in most cases, not that difficult. I mean, there are rare cases, and there are things that, are hard to sort out, but a lot of times it's like people have heartburn, or they have, joint pain from osteoarthritis, and a lot of times it's just kind of managing how aggressively you treat things, when you wait and see if it gets better, or what meds you try. It's a lot of it's kind of trial and error. So these ideas where you present a rare case, and does the AI do better than the doctor, that might really pan out, and that might even be a potential use of AI. But in the day-to-day stuff, a lot of it's just kind of common sense, practical, working with people to help them manage their lives.
Is it a good thing for us, the patients, to, suddenly we think we're experts now? I mean, we're bombarded with TV commercials on, ask your doctor about this or whatever, and shows people living a beautiful life, the guy swinging the girl around in the sunshine out in the field, and if you take this medicine, your problems will be over, sort of a thing. So they're emotionally selling it to us. But you're in the business of science, and people buy emotionally, we justify logically, but you're in the logical business. So does it irritate doctors when you go in there and you say, hey, have you heard about the Switchton medicine that I just saw on TV? It says I should ask you about that. Is that a good thing that the end users are being bombarded with advertising trying to influence us when you're the doctor?
This is something every doctor deals with, but I'd say, 90+% of the time when patients have done Google MD or something and they come to me with ideas, I don't mind that at all. It can be actually a nice launching pad for discussion. The times that I get annoyed with it are where they kind of insist that their conclusion from interacting with this stuff is the truth, and mine's a minority opinion, because medicine's there's a lot of nuance to it, and so it's complicated, and if something on Google MD says this, doesn't mean it's right, and but it can be useful food for discussion.
Like WebMD, of course. I thought, well, that was a pretty good thing. You can, check that. And there's a new one I just Googled, and I don't know if you've heard of this one, Brian, but it's called Doctortronics. Doctortronics, man. And it's a AI doctor. Okay, so if you're in front of your computer listening right now, check up Doctortronics. And you log in anonymously, you tell them your age and whatever, some information, and then you just type in what is wrong, what ails you. And then they give you like instantly a whole feedback, a diagnosis, and possible things you should do. And if you want to talk to a real doctor for $29, a real doctor will come on the screen and talk with you about what your problem is.
A real doctor, not an AI doctor.
Well, who knows? But it's supposed to be a real doctor.
A deep fake Dr. Bickle.
Yeah. So is that dangerous, or is if AI is testing well against other real doctors in prescribing and diagnosing, is that a good thing? That why not? What do you have to lose?
I don't think it's bad. Think about it. People talk all the time amongst themselves, trading their medical theories and talking to their friends. They have this and that, or they read stuff, and it's not that easy to get in to see doctors a lot of times, especially if you have co-pays and other things. So I don't think in general knowledge about healthcare or even the ability to look into some of your symptoms and get some ideas is a bad thing. It might trigger you like, boy, they keep telling me maybe I should see somebody to get a cancer screening or something, so it can raise awareness. It's going to be tricky to sort of sort this out, how to use it, but I think overall it's a good thing, actually.
Brian?
It's kind of reminds me of trying to figure out how much your house is worth by going to Zillow. You kind of have to kind of treat it almost like, oh, this is kind of fun to see, but you can't exactly take that to the bank. But then also I had a problem with my car the other day, and I called the mechanic, and they were like, okay, well, what's happening with it? And like, I don't even know how to describe. Like, it kind of sounds like, I'm making these like dumb noises. If you basically have that amount of information about your own body, and it's like, well, I kind of hurt in like a weird achy sort of way. Like, what is AI? And then AI spits out this incredibly detailed diagnosis. I don't know how much I would trust that, because I'm not very good at actually explaining what's wrong with me sometimes. Sergeant Rodriguez. We're calling you Augie today.
Call me whatever you like.
Okay.
I feel like if we view this as just a tool to kind of give us more information than we had originally, but it's still going to always be confirmed by a professional, I think that it's a good thing. And I think that we could look at it as a resource. And I think that if you're taking the time and the initiative to go on there and plug in all the information that you have, and it's spitting out some information, hopefully that the system would still recommend that you contact your primary care physician just to confirm this diagnosis, of course. But if we're using it as a tool to make things more efficient or to obtain more information or learn things, I don't see many downsides to that. But obviously, we're still in the very early stages of AI, and that's just today. Tomorrow could be significantly different.
And Brian, you're talking about different parallels to it. You could look at it as like your financial advisor. I mean, you can go on AI, and AI will tell you where you should put all your money and when and where. I use AI for Hard Rock, betting on sports, and I can tell you it's not 100% accurate. Dr. Bickle, go ahead.
First of all, I totally agree with what Augie just said, and I thought it was very well stated. I think it's a growing, it's an evolving field, and I think there's a lot of upside.
Okay. Let's talk about things that people are really concerned about. And almost like, because, Augie, we're going to talk about scams and cyber crimes and things like that in the second part of the program. But what about people through medical AI and things where they're like, hey, this has been proven, where it's an anti-aging type of thing. You do this and you buy these healthy pills and all this kind of stuff. And then people, once again, selling emotionally. People come on TV and this is what I look like. And now look at me now and all those sort of things. So people will follow what AI would be maybe predicting or prescribing for them personally to anti-age?
So, I mean, honestly, my question would be, what's the difference between that and a snake oil salesman in the 1800s? I mean, it's the same idea. It requires the consumer to stop and question everything, be a pessimist about everything, do research, ask questions, and learn whether or not this is true or not. I mean, as an example, like if I'm buying something on Amazon, and the caption says this is the best, automated cat litter box on Amazon, right? But my next step is to go to the reviews and see actual people, actual customers that have bought it, and read every single one and try to determine now whether they're an AI chatbot, of course. But secondly, look for real people that are verified purchasers and see what their opinion is of it. And sometimes they'll have videos and pictures and things, and that could help assist us in making those decisions. But in any situation that you're being provided information, whether that's through artificial intelligence or a public citizen or reading the newspaper, you should back up that information with other resources.
Dr. Bickle, question for you is, I heard some pretty outrageous things this week from these, AI, the tech titans that were all talking, and they said basically with a simple blood test, just like you send in a stool sample, you could send in a blood sample of your own to a company, and they would be able to, with AI, predict what diseases you might be getting in the near future. Could be cancer or some other disease to it, because everybody's the same, but yet we're different, I guess. And because of you and the unique DNA of yours and all these sort of things, the AI can predict that you're probably going to get cancer in the next 5 years or whatever. But here's a vaccination that we have designed specifically for you, because it kind of seems to me now with cancer therapy and chemo, it's kind of like a carpet bombing of the body trying to get to the to cancer cells. So, Dr. Bickle, tell me where I'm right or wrong.
I actually found an article. New England Journal has a series of subspecialty articles or journals that they produce, and one of them is on AI. And so I've actually found. I thought that was so preposterous that I was looking around for some, article that they might have referenced, and I actually found one in that journal, and, some scientists kind of concluded something similarly, which shocked me, actually, because, as Yogi Berra said, prediction is very hard, especially about the future, and I think that the thing with preventive medicine and aging and, developing cancer is that it is so multifactorial that even people with cancer genes like BRCA, there's a Lynch syndrome where they're clearly impact. I mean, you have 20, 30% chance of cancer with autosomal dominant sort of inheritance. Even those people, lots of them don't get cancer. So I don't know where they're even coming up with that idea. I think it's just, and there's this issue of predictability. Let's say you do get a genetic test and it says you have a 5-fold increased incidence of getting pancreatic cancer. That might take you from 0.7% chance in your lifetime to 3%. Now, what are you going to do with that? It's still a very unlikely event. And so I just, in general, preventive stuff, screening stuff has been very problematic because you're trying to do all this stuff for a group of people where a lot of them will never experience those events. And so I think to me, that's an area where I'm kind of bearish. But there are some areas of AI that I think are incredibly promising. And we can talk about those if you want.
And so what is the end game is, hey, we want to live as long as we can, as healthy as we can, right? And there was a Twilight Zone where, Mr. Death takes a vacation and nobody on the earth could die because the guy was on vacation. It was like the Grim Reaper sort of thing. And all this chaos and everything. So at what point are we supposed to die and how? I mean, they're talking about aging society and a burden to society. We don't have enough young people and all that. So what's the end game with medicine and things like that? How long should we live and why?
That's the eternal question. It's hard. And I think what we want mostly is just high quality of life, not just you're cranking, from 90 to 100, you're barely, functional, but that you're actually vibrant and enjoying your life. So that's a tough area. I mean, I think it's constantly debated.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Also, I wanted to give some final comments because we're going to have to move on. But overall, in UC, you take care of a lot of people here, and with particularly, and thank you for your work with HIV and AIDS here in Flagler County. You've made a big difference with a lot of people in need, and not maybe the ways and means to be healthy and lead a better life. So thank you for all that with the health department. So give us some words of wisdom here with medicine and AI. We're going to be seeing an overflow of different things about it. How should we absorb it?
Well, I think there are two extremely promising areas that will show up right away. One is diagnosis of not necessarily patient interaction where there's a lot of filtering, but like looking at CT scans and different kind of testing where the AI systems are able to look at patterns that the average human filters out. And they've done some very interesting work on Mayo Clinic and Google are working on some stuff like that. And then the second one is in the area of molecular biology engineering, where it may not be that easy, in fact, I don't think it is, to predict who's going to get cancer. But once you get cancer, the molecular biology is becoming almost like industrial, where you can make proteins, you can use AI to figure out shapes of proteins, and then come up with a targeted treatment for a particular cancer, identifying a genetic mutation. I think that's going to become just almost like a routine, practice in, maybe 3 to 5 years. But because this stuff used to take like a year of like fiddling around in a lab, and now it'll be almost like an industrial assembly line sort of ability to carve these things out. So I think those are going to be extremely promising. The other stuff, harder to tell for me anyway.
Mm-hmm. All right, very good. Anything else for Dr. Bickle before we let him go, Brian?
I don't think so. Just hope you're enjoying California. Hopefully it's warmer there.
I am. Well, we spent half our time in Memphis, and we've been getting frozen out just like you guys. So.
Okay. Well, and Carmel is not near the fires, so that's a
no.
That's
Yeah,
we've
been good. Although we did have a battery fire down the road. But anyway, it's been about 60, so I don't want to rub it in. But you'll be 60 next week probably. So.
Okay.
I think so.
All right, Sergeant Rodriguez, anything for Dr. Bickle before we let him loose?
No, I agree with his assessment. I think that viewing AI right now as improving efficiency and becoming a force multiplier in every field, in everything that we do. I think that's the benefit of looking at it right now.
Okay, so look at how we can utilize AI to be healthier. Yeah. And now the next part of the show is going to be you about how bad guys are using AI against us, and what can we do about that. Dr. Bickle, be safe. You can go back to sleep now, okay?
All right, thanks a lot. I enjoyed this show, guys.
Thank you, Doctor.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back. And, hey, there's an election going on. I went by the courthouse on the way in today, and it says vote, 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 vote. Is anybody voting? Did you vote yet, Brian?
I have not.
Have you voted yet, Sergeant?
I have not, sir.
Me neither. Well, there's an election going on. We'll find out about that and how to stay safe. And is your cell phone your worst enemy, carrying it around with bad guys hacking in and things? We'll find out on Free for All Friday. We'll be right back.
Hi folks, Bill Gallagher with SolarFit here. Have you ever thought about utilizing solar power for your home or business? Well, there's never been a better time to plug into the sun and stop renting electricity. How would you like to let your roof start paying you each month? Give us a call at 445-7606. That's 445-7606, or visit us at solarfit.com and set yourself free.
SolarFit your life and set yourself free with the sun's free energy.
This is a Republican voter alert. President Donald Trump has endorsed conservative businessman Randy Fine for Congress. We repeat, President Donald Trump has endorsed conservative Florida businessman Randy Fine for Congress. This special election is Tuesday, January 28th. On January 28th, President Trump needs you to send another conservative fighter to Washington. Randy Fine will help President Trump secure the border. He'll help the president lower the runaway cost of living. Randy Fine will help President Trump stop the woke mob and make America the greatest nation in the world again. Do not miss this special congressional election. On Tuesday, January 28th, stand with President Donald Trump and vote for trusted conservative Randy Fine for Congress. Conservative Fighter PAC paid and is responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.conservativefighterpac.com.
Randy Fine. We had a good interview with him when Trump said, hey, I need you to be my guy. And remember, we asked him, we go, we don't even live here in the district that you're running for Congress. And he said, yep, they don't have to. And it's in the Constitution that only like locals and state representatives, but if it's a federal office, you just have to live in the state. So to clarify that with people, actually, I want to bet on that. So
that's the second time we've talked about betting.
Yeah. I know. It sounds like I have a problem.
There's resources.
You said it, not me.
I just do it for fun. Makes it fun. 100%. Speaking of that, we have AFC NFC playoffs this Sunday live here on WNZF. We're also the Super Bowl radio station. So if you're out and about driving around and can't be in front of a TV, tune us in here. We're streaming it also worldwide on the Flagler Radio mobile app, and play-by-play with the game starts at 3 o'clock mark, something like that. Okay. Anyway, so we have an election going on right now. I don't really know of anybody that's voted, but here's somebody that knows all about it. Katie Lenhart, Supervisor of Elections. Good morning, Katie.
Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody?
Has anybody voted yet?
Yes, we've actually had quite a few people vote, actually. It's still not a great turnout, but over 6,587 so far total, 9% turnout. And believe it or not, we have the highest turnout by a wide margin for all the counties involved in the special election. Okay. So our turnout is great comparatively, but it's still pretty pitiful.
Why do you think our turnout is good?
We've done a lot to help get the word out. And our voters here in Flagler County, they love voting. It's their favorite. So when there's an election, they show up.
Can you tell, what about absentees, or mail-in votes, those kind of things? What are the numbers?
Yeah, so all the vote-by-mail requests in the state of Florida expired after the November election. So we sent out a postcard to everybody to let them know it was time to renew. So we've sent out over 7,000, and we've got about, over 4,500 back. So more than half have been returned.
Okay, all right. How about poll walk-in voters, early voting? How's the activity been?
It's been really slow. The weather doesn't help. It's been windy and rainy and freezing cold. So, January is not really a great time to have an election. But the early voting is steady. We have 1,900 even who voted early so far, and you can still vote today. Tomorrow is the last day to vote early.
So people listening going, holy crap, I didn't even know there was an election. What's on the ballot? Who's on the ballot?
Yeah, so it's our congressional district. There's a Republican ballot and a Democratic ballot. If you're registered with no party, or if you're independent or minor party, there's no ballot for you. But if you're registered Republican or registered Democrat, there are 3 candidates each. One of the Democratic candidates has withdrawn. That notice will be in the voting booth, and it's also on the website for those who were interested in researching the candidates. They can do that.
Okay, so election night, it'll be a pretty easy one for you.
It's still a countywide election for us. We're going to have our precincts open. That's the main thing I think that people should know. A lot of folks in the county have gotten a polling place change notice because our schools are in session, and we're going to have to move all the school Election Day precinct voting locations to an adjacent precinct because we didn't want to disrupt the school schedule. Not only is that pretty much impossible, but it would be very disruptive to the calendar for the schools. So they'd have to make up the days, in other words. So if you live in the P section, W section, R section, so Rimfire, Old Kings, Belterre Elementary, Matanzas High School, all those precincts have been moved.
Okay. All right. Very good. I guess to me, I vote no matter what, because I've never missed an election in my entire life since I turned 18. So it's kind of a pride type of a thing, like perfect attendance. So yes, so go vote and learn about the candidates before you do. And you can't tell how many Democrat or Republican votes have been cast so far.
Yeah, we can look at that. Hold on.
Okay.
So Republican turnout right now is over 4,000. Democratic turnout is over 2,000.
Okay. All right. There we go. It's pretty much expected, I would guess. So, all right,
Well,
Katie.
right. If you look at the registration totals, that's reflective of the number of Republicans and the number of Democrats registered to vote. So it's pretty much in line with what we would expect.
Okay.
So where do I find my precinct if I somehow one of my kids maybe got a hold of that notice in the mail, or I can always blame somebody. But where do I find my precinct? I'm on your website right now, flaglerelections.com or .gov. Either one works, right?
Yeah, either one works. When it gets a little bit closer to Election Day, we'll replace that early voting section with Election Day information. But if you're looking now, it's under For Voters and Find Your Precinct. So we'll link directly to that, the day before and the day of election, because that's when people are looking for it. And that's how you just type in your house number, your street, and then it'll bring up your polling place on Election Day.
All right. Okay.
For Voters, Find Your Precinct. Okay, got
Just call Katie. Call Brian and help him. Will you? Okay.
No. I'm using the website.
Using artificial intelligence. Okay. All right, Katie. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you being our supervisor of elections. Have a great weekend. Stay warm.
You too. Thank you. Take care.
Right,
Bye now.
All right. Katie Lynn Hart. She is a great supervisor elections here. Hope Trump doesn't steal her away too. Like there's gonna be nobody left in Florida to run the state. They keep picking all the best. I see like Kevin Guthrie, who was our emergency management director here, who got fired by Craig Coffey, by the way. But anyway, he's a super guy. And then he went to the state and he's like doing awesome things under DeSantis or whatever. Now Trump's talking about moving him up to Washington with FEMA. So we got nobody left here. So. Hey, we're talking about the AI, and I saw by chance kind of a documentary. This Mariana, this blonde reporter that gets her way into cartels and things. He's just so innocent looking, and I can't believe people dispute. Well, she did one on scams, and it was like global scams, and she went around the world getting inside these businesses that's all they do is scams, and they're located in high-rise, beautiful buildings, commercial buildings, and around the world, even in Israel and Tel Aviv and everything. And the degree of how many, and there's thousands of these companies that every day they get up, they go to work to scam, try to scam you, me, and anybody listening. So to me, it was overwhelming, actually. Like, how does this happen? So let's boil it down to Flagler County right now. That's why we have Sergeant Augie Rodriguez right here with us. Your life is defending us from all this stuff, right?
My life consists of, I don't know about defending, but trying to make things right. So it's difficult for us to stop these things from occurring. As you said, this is a worldwide phenomenon, and it's very new. So some of the things that we face is, we get reports of people that have been scammed using AI and other technological means, and then we try to do our best to hold people accountable and potentially recoup any funds that may have been lost, and then try to return that to the victim. But the biggest thing that we can do about protecting the public is just by sharing the information in situations like this. And I think this forum is huge, and I was very excited to come and sit down with you guys today.
Well, one of the cases we're all aware of was the high school got scammed on the construction. Remember, it was like $700,000.
Yes.
I mean, it was smart. Here's somebody gets the PO number and puts in a fake invoice for it and go ahead and electronically pay. And we did. And it wasn't the right contractor.
Right.
But were you working on that at all?
I was not. That was more consistent of a fraud type, typical paper fraud sort of investigation. Sheriff Staley started this cybercrimes unit in October of 2024. And he met with me and discussed what his vision was for the future and about the concerns about where we're going with technology and all these new crimes that are popping up. And so he really saw where we're heading and wanted to get ahead of it. So he met with me. We started a new unit, and then myself and detective are pretty much responsible for trying to get ahead of these things, learn new technologies that are emerging, go to trainings and see what we could do. But the biggest thing is educating the public, and Sheriff Staley is huge about that. And we have a great public information office that is trying to put out information as often as possible. And one of the things that we're seeing a lot now, there's been a rash of this in 2025, is people calling citizens and pretending to be members of the Flagler County Sheriff's Office. So what they'll do is they'll just research a supervisor, somebody in the Flagler County Sheriff's Office, a real live person. They'll call a number that they find through public record in some capacity, and then they'll impersonate a supervisor at the Flagler County Sheriff's Office.
Well, let me ask you a question because I want you to finish that.
Yes, sir.
But for the first part, so somebody's cell phone rings, right, with a number that they don't know who it is, and they answer. It doesn't say Sheriff's Department on their caller ID, or could it?
It could. So especially now with artificial intelligence and other technologies that have emerged, a lot of the scammers are cloning phone numbers. So they'll be able to clone a number to the point where it on your caller ID, it will show the Flagler County Sheriff's Office phone number. I'm not sure if the phone would actually display Flagler County Sheriff's Office, but it would come through as our number. And if somebody was to really quickly, use their presence of mind to Google that phone number, it would show Flagler County Sheriff's Office. That's a huge problem.
So then they think, okay, I'm good, so I'll answer the phone.
I've done it 1,000 times. I've gotten phone calls from random companies about some bill I owe, and I'll Google that phone number really quickly while I'm on the phone, and I establish some validity to it. Even with email addresses, like I'll get emails from eBay that say that I owe X amount of dollars. The first thing I'll do is I'll click on the email address specifically, and it kind of expands using Apple software. At least I'm not sure too much about Androids, but it'll expand and it'll show what the full email address. And typically it'll be eBay at xyz12345. .edu or whatever. It'll be some crazy email address, and at that point it should raise some red flags for a normal person, right? But if you're not aware that that's an option and you just see the eBay logo on your email, you might be inclined to go ahead and give them your personal information. That's the danger that we face today.
And you think this is just the beginning?
It is just the beginning.
I mean, because of AI, on the documentary, the Mariana documentary, I mean, these were, people in Mexico going to work, going to phone banks and things. And, hey, you want a new Mercedes and $1 million. What are you going to do with the money, sir? So they were all, a very tiny percent of the people actually fall for it. But when you robocall enough people that do, all you does is take one hit. One guy goes, I made $300,000 in one day, and then they transfer. But like you were saying, the scam here is also where they say, hey, your granddaughter has been. Go ahead and explain that one.
So a lot of it is somebody calling and just impersonating a bail bondsman or law enforcement and saying that your granddaughter's been kidnapped and or your granddaughter's been arrested and we need $2,000 to bond her out. A lot of what we're seeing now is cryptocurrency being the preferred method of exchange because it is harder to track than just, if you were to provide a bank account. So that should obviously raise some red flags as well. No law enforcement officer or bail bondsman is calling and requesting money to be deposited in a digital wallet with Bitcoin. So people have to learn and identify red flags, and it can be convincing. And now a danger with AI is voice cloning, face cloning. So if you were to get a message and it's a video of your loved one, family member, and the person is saying, I'm in danger, I've been kidnapped, I need $20,000 wired to this cryptocurrency account or they're going to kill me. If that were to happen, I think most people would probably be inclined to believe it and they wouldn't dig too deep into it.
So you get a call, an AI would clone your granddaughter's voice and have her crying hysterically that they're going to cut my head off if you don't send the money right now, whatever, and please, grandma, And there would be no. That was pretty good, wasn't it?
That was good.
That was
yeah.
amazing.
I'm already getting my wallet out right now.
But the emotional thing, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
They got to trigger your emotion to do it. So logically, you wouldn't do that. They've got to get under your skin somehow.
Yeah, they want to eliminate
fear,
pessimism.
all those sort of things to it. Or like, hey, you want $1 million and we just need, processing fee money or something like that. But pretty much once you hit the button and send it to them from your bank, it's gone, right? There's no getting it back.
Well, that's where we come in. And Sheriff Staley's given us the tools to try and use new technology to try to stay ahead of the bad guys. Unfortunately, the bad guys are always typically one step ahead of us. But that's why we have to look towards the future, adopt new technologies, continue to invest in new softwares and new things. And Sheriff Staley and Chief Deputy Barilli have really been on the forefront of all that. So we have adopted some new technologies that could potentially assist us with recouping some of that funding, depending on the circumstances. It's not a guarantee, but we are working extremely hard, and we have a detective, Detective Hill, that is very, very dedicated in this sort of area in combating these online cyber scams. And we are constantly working to make people whole again when they lose something.
So David Ayers calls me. It's his number. It's his voice, and he's saying, "Hey, you ran these radio ads and you owe me $500. I can just hang up and say, I don't buy that. That's probably a David Ayers scam."
Especially after today, that would be a very wise decision.
You promised you'd never bring that up again. Let me ask you this, locally here, okay, on the global area and all that, but let's just talk about local scams that, our neighbors or, some guy works for some company right here within the confines of Flagler County. What kind of scams are going on right now that human to human, right here, our own neighbors?
There's always contractor scams and other frauds that are committed, historical things where people will promise to do something and then they just won't do it, or they'll disappear. They'll use a fake name or a fake business and then lure people into this trap. I mean, we have a general assignment unit that is pretty much responsible for typical traditional paper frauds that have been committed historically, and they do a great job investigating those. But the focus now is trying to prepare for what is going to be the future. Because typically in those person-to-person local scams, you're talking about a few $100s, few $1,000s, something to that effect for the most part. Some of these cryptocurrency scams and cyber scams, we have cases that are over $1 million lost. And these are hardworking people that have accrued this money, retired, and trying to live out the rest of their life comfortably, and then they're convinced of something, and it's extremely convincing, and they just give up pretty much their entire worth with the promise of maybe recouping it back or doubling their money or something to that effect. It's very scary, and everyone just needs to have a kind of an umbrella of pessimism. And if something is too good to be true, it usually is. But if they're just working under the assumption that this might be a scam at all times, that is going to be beneficial, and that you use whatever resources available to you to try to confirm whether things are real or not.
That's awful, though. I mean, to kind of live your life like that, like you're walking around assuming that people might be scamming you because somebody very well might be.
Yeah, it's a new age.
It's really rough.
The thing that I would advise is to pretty much just look out and understand red flags. And that just goes for any situation. Like if you're walking down a dark alley and you see somebody following you, that's a red flag, But things that are related to cryptocurrency, which is a very easy method for criminals to mask where the money is going, that is a red flag. If somebody calls you and they say that you have a warrant for your arrest and you need to pay us money, or we're going to come arrest you, that is not something that the Flagler County Sheriff's Office is ever going to do, no matter what decade or millennium it is. And the federal government does not do that either. So it's identifying red flags, being familiar with them, and just preparing yourself to question things. And it's just something that we have to be prepared for as we move into this next generation, because things are going to get a lot harder.
So it must be really tough for real, legitimate people to cut through all this clutter and stuff. So say you get a call that you really believe is your doctor or whoever, somebody you've been doing business with, but I don't know. How do we confirm And what's a good way for us to say, okay, this is a double check here. There's, a two system type thing. Hey, Marianne, you're calling me from this and everything, but how do I verify that is true rather than just thinking everything is fake?
A lot of companies are implementing two-factor authentication. So I've gotten a call from Wells Fargo before in my bank, and I'll be like, how do I know that this is a real person? And then they'll send a text message to my phone that I have on record, and I'll be able to confirm through a portal certain things and, going to the website. But if it's just a local company, if it's the Flagler County Sheriff's Office calling you for an example, if you were to say, all right, I understand, I'm going to hang up and I'm going to call you right back just so I could verify that this is true and correct. And if you were to do that, then you would reach a dispatcher or you would reach an employee of the sheriff's office, and then you'd be able to go through the process to confirm, is this real or is this not? That would be my advice to the public, is just be vigilant and then call the Flagler County Sheriff's Office 24/7, ask questions, don't assume anything, and just protect yourself.
I've heard don't ever say yes, because a telemarketer, they'll record you saying yes. They'll go, hey, is this Brian? Are you in love with your wife? And you go, yes. All right. Well, they record that yes, and then they edit that into a verbal contract on something, and they have evidence that you agreed to it, even though your yes was totally disassociated. So they're like, don't ever say yes on the phone. That could be edited in as a confirmation for an agreement.
At some point, we can't be fearful of all these things, obviously. So we have to trust in our financial institutions to be able to protect our funds. And if we're scammed out of something and then you file a police report, then hopefully the financial institution will be able to cancel the transaction or refund you your money or something like that. But obviously we can't live in constant fear that we're being watched. I don't want to wear a tinfoil hat. I don't want to have a zipper over my mouth and just never say anything again. But something as simple as Apple introduced some speech software where it goes through basically like 30 or 50 words that you repeat based on prompts on the screen. And then at that point, it copies and is able to mimic your voice. And you can type in a sentence and then say, speak this sentence, and it'll actually replicate your voice and it'll sound just like you. And this is just using your phone, regular iPhone, nothing special, no sophisticated software. But that was introduced like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. So where we're going is unprecedented. And then just, the government needs to have fail safes to protect the people from, criminal acts.
We're going to wrap it up here. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. We're talking this morning on Free for All Friday. Brian McMillan here in the studio.
So when I come back, you're going to tell us how we should all calm down and this is all going to work out okay?
No, that's what Sergeant's going to tell us what to do. How to fix all the problems.
That's right.
In 60 seconds. We'll be right back. Free for All Friday.
Craig Flagler Palms Funeral Home and Flagler Memorial Gardens creates unique personalized funeral or cremation memorials, has flexible chapel space for small to large capacity needs, a veteran cemetery section, as well as sections for a variety of faiths. Online at dignitymemorial.com.
She's Carla.
And that's Alan.
If you don't know who we are,
now you do.
We're the owners of your local Benjamin Moore paint store.
Next time you're thinking about painting, think about us. Benjamin Moore, corner of Old Kings and Utility Drive.
Palm Coast.
Tired of chasing down rent or fixing that leaky sink at 2 a.m.? Let Serenity Realty Group handle it so you can sit back, relax, and maybe take up a new hobby. Call Serenity Realty Group Property Management at 386-221-2255 today. Serenity Realty Group, peace of mind, one property at a time.
All right, we're out of time. Free for All Friday. I learned a lot today and hope you did too. We are a podcast broadcast, and we've got cameras in the studio for the first time ever.
Wow, first time?
People, yeah, you're our guinea pig today, Sergeant.
I love it.
First TV star.
I love it.
Yeah. And you're looking good. I can see on the monitor.
I appreciate it.
I hope you're not undercover today.
No, not today.
Anyway, well, thanks for coming in.
You
must have an interesting job. Every day's got to be different. Right?
Every day is different. We identify new things and new technologies every single day. But ultimately, we just work tirelessly to protect the public from these things and educate the public, which I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today and try to provide some education to the public. But The sheriff's office is really good about putting out information on social media to try to make people aware of certain scams and certain problems. But this is just the beginning, so everybody's just got to be prepared.
Well, Staley's got license plate readers all over this town. So if you're a criminal and you're wanted, you got to be really stupid to stop and get gas at the Wawa.
If you're a bad guy, stay out of Flagler County. I'll just give you that advice. We will not allow that to happen. No.
No, it's awesome. You know, I think people, you know, on the surveys here, how they feel very safe in Flagler County. And I think that's with the constant communication with the sheriff's department. You know, if you don't tell people what's going on, they make up what's going on.
Correct.
And, you know, he's a great communicator, and he's got a great staff, and you. And so thanks to you and everybody on the Flagler County Sheriff's Department.
Thank you.
Appreciate
I appreciate the kind words. Thank you.
Brian McMillan, final words of AI wisdom from a human being.
I don't know. AI is, like Dr. Bickle said, I mean, there's so much opportunity, but yet so much to still wait and see on. I think what I'm kind of, you know, different subject, but I've been going to the city council meetings lately, and there's just so many. We have a new city council, and there's a lot of topics that have been brought up that have been debated for years, and now there's like a new set of people, and it seems like there's a lot of room to kind of hear new ideas. And I think I would just encourage people to reach out to the city council members, let them know what you think about these topics that keep coming up, about what is the nature of the city. Send letters to the editor. You can send it to me, Brian, at observerlocalnews.com. And just I hope people stay engaged and follow the news. So
and so why are you stirring all this stuff up?
I'm not stirring it up. They're bringing it up, and I think it's fascinating to see, because I think
paint your house any color you want. You know,
exactly. That's what that's what the tone is on the city council right now. But it's a big shift from the past.
It's a slippery slope too.
Yeah, but it's interesting because it says, like Mike Norris, we're not an HOA, and a lot of people feel like, well, because of the rules, it feels like we're in an HOA. That's why he felt compelled to say that, you know, in the first place. And yet, there's a lot of people who feel like that's why we love Palm Coast, because, while technically no, it's not an HOA, there are a lot of rules that kind of keep it there. And you know, that debate has been going on a lot, but I think
Palm Coast is a community of high standards, right? And that's why a lot of people moved here. Now, when you start turning it into a trailer park by eliminating rules, and you'll have people, not everybody, but you'll have those that'll start ruining it for people. So, like I say, it's a slippery slope. I see, you know, leave well enough alone would be if I was on the council, which I never will be. Sergeant, what do you got there?
It also encourages people that like to follow the rules to move into this community, that are not afraid of rules, that are okay abiding by certain guidelines, which I think also probably contributes to the low crime rate that we have here, you know, along with the men and women in the sheriff's office. Palm Coast is a beautiful place. Obviously, we want to keep it that way.
We got a lot of other things to work on than messing with the fundamentals, is my opinion. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. Stay warm. All the cold weather shelters are up. Playoff games, NFL, AFC, NFC, live Sunday afternoon on WNZF. Take care. Be safe. Be kind.
Kids screaming, phone ringing, dog barking at the mailman, bringing that stack of bills overdue.
Serving Flagler County for a decade and a half. WNZF.